Well, this is not my favorite person, but this is my favorite comic book artist. Chris Chan.
The GOAT. The GOAT, dude. Known as the GOAT. Yes, he's destroying DC and Marvel. He's doing greater than Eric July ever could, frankly. He's amazing. That's
what I'm saying. Everybody's, fighting over Eric July and this, the Ripperverse and all this, the Rippaverse. Dude, nobody will ever create anything as memorable as Sonic Chew. I mean, am I wrong about that?
You're right. He's owning the chuds with it too. He's destroying the chuds. He's destroying the conservatives. He's doing the right thing. Thank God.
And you know about the latest Sonic Chew medallion conspiracy. Are you aware of this?
I am aware. I actually just recorded my video about the medallion holder today. Yeah, that is funny, but it's kind of a tragic story. What's going on with Nick Rekieta? That's pretty dark.
It's very dark. He got caught with a bunch of blow, and he's doing wife swapping, and here he is holding the medallion right here, Tom. And can you talk about some of the other victims that fell to this medallion? I think iDubbbz is one of them.
Yeah, iDubbbz had a medallion. That was a pretty dark story. A lot of people think they can test the power of Christian. They think, he's delusional. He believes in all this crazy religion stuff. He's not a Christian. He's not an atheist. He's cringe. But I think there's no stronger evidence that holding the medallion has a lot of power than everybody who seems to hold it. They're like, oh, this is so silly. They get it shipped to their house. They wear it. All of a sudden, in 9 months, their life is fucking destroyed. They're a drug addict. They're in jail. Their girlfriend is, being masturbated to by millions of men online. It's dark. It's very dark.
It's dark. Did iDubbbz's girlfriend, her OnlyFans doesn't do that well. And Nisa, right? I mean, do you think she has that many patrons?
Maybe back in the day. Maybe back in the day.
In her heyday,
you never know.
You think any of her freaky videos even got 1 million views, though? Is that, I don't know. Does she have that big of a following?
I'm not totally sure, but, she is pretty famous. Her boyfriend was really famous. And, there's such thing as a hate fuck. I can imagine a hateful masturbation,
That
session.
is true. People are going to do it just out of spite. It's a spite jack. They're jacking out of spite.
Exactly.
Trust me. Been there, done that. Everybody has. So tell me this, though, Tom. Now we got to get into another guy, and I watched your documentary about him. Is that the correct term to call it a documentary, Tom? What should I call it? An expose?
Yeah, something like, documentary, video essay.
Video essay.
I think usually something like that. Yeah. Internet documentation. It's a little different because, when you think documentary, you think someone who flies out to meet these people. And I haven't done a ton of that yet. But most of it is like, just documenting all the publicly available information. But, documentary essay, whatever you want to call it. I feel like documentary is a little pretentious, but along those lines.
Well, dude, you're crushing it. I know you're a young man. Brandon Buckingham is a friend of both of ours. And, he has the utmost respect. And but a guy that doesn't get a lot of respect, a guy that goes after, what's the name of the actress that Daniel Larson is obsessed with?
Grace Van something.
Grace Van something. And this guy has tormented her mom, Daniel Larson. But this is my question, though, Tom. People have manipulated him. You obviously know all about it. The guys, that he's friends with. And what's the guy's name? His grandfather type guy that always pays for everything?
I believe Bob.
Yes, Bob. He has some people that want to help him and some people that want to hurt him. Is Daniel Larson really the villain that they make him out to be, or is he just mentally disabled and he really doesn't know better? Because obviously he talks about a lot of weird pedo-type Chris Chan stuff.
Yeah, he is disabled. There's no doubt about it. I don't think the trolls are really helping his situation. But he's also, he's kind of an unhinged person. If you look into it, there's, people will pose as an underage girl and message him and he'll be like, oh my God, let's, do this. And it's like, oh, I don't know. It's hard to tell with these people how self-aware they are and how much you can hold them accountable. But at the end of the day, I don't really see that as my problem. I just want to laugh at all the insane shit that's going on with these guys. And there's a lot of it. I'm sure you heard recently, Daniel, he went to jail. He went to a supermax prison because he said he was going to bomb the White House, which is really funny.
Well, why do you think the feds actually picked him up on
Joe
that?
Biden.
Yeah, I know, but he probably didn't even know. Does he even know Joe Biden's a president? Is he anti-Joe Biden?
I don't think so. He's been convinced of a lot of stuff over the years. People have tricked him into saying some pretty funny stuff about like praising Hitler and stuff like that. And there's clips of him talking about how he's like, the Jews are the reason why my Cash App doesn't have more money in it. They're taking it from me. So the trolls will get him to say a lot of funny, crazy stuff.
And they make him take naked pictures of himself. That's the really sad one. The guys that do that, and there's a lot of people on the internet that do that, is that they, they catfish him and then they get a dick pic and then they share it all over the internet. Like, who is the evil person in that? They're both evil, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's evil. He's just, I mean, literally retarded, I think is what he is. It's probably more evil to try to get a rise out of him from those guys, but you can't deny some of the stuff is funny. One thing that was really funny is if you look up pictures like Daniel Larson haircut, you'll find these pictures, but
Yeah.
somebody agreed to give him a haircut because he needed a haircut, and they shaved the middle of his head and left. They just left and didn't come back.
But like,
and he was just stuck with this.
That was on your documentary,
crazy.
Right? Yeah, like they didn't even leave slowly. They're like, oh, our car got broken into, and Daniel's like
Yeah.
walking to the car with him, like, where's the car? So, I mean, dude, he's getting manipulated by everybody. I'm for some reason, I know he's a pervert. I know he's a sick person, but he believes he belongs in like a mental asylum. I don't know if he belongs in federal prison. Do you think he's going to get out of jail? What do you think is going to happen in that case?
I don't really know. I mean, I'm not a legal expert. I would imagine at trial, they'll take into account the fact that he is, not all there. I mean, he definitely shouldn't be with like MS-13 in jail. He should probably just be in a home somewhere forever with no phone, with no internet access. He shouldn't be allowed to go online. Well, but in prison, people find a way to sneak things in. He might get like an ass phone or something that he's able to post on TikTok with or something and take his dick out. You mentioned people making him take naked pictures. There was this one video he got banned on TikTok for a long time ago. I'm remembering right now where he's like standing like this. He's been dancing and he just drops his pants and his dick comes out. And then it just says like, this TikTok is not available anymore. That shit is like, someone did make him do it, but it is so hilarious.
DSP, the original OG when it comes to internet gaming. What's the deal with DSP? Like, what is his deal? Does he leave his house? He was felting Nick Rekieta the other day. I mean, he's funny. Him and Keemstar get into it. I freaking love DSP, even though he's probably one of the most repugnant guys. His personality. Why is he so popular? What's the enigma surrounding him, in your opinion, Tom?
The thing with DSP is he got famous a long time ago on YouTube. When you think of YouTube gaming stuff, you think like, okay, they've got like the camera and they're in the corner. You've got like the game here. You've got all this stuff going on, right? There's like a little bit of production value, even though it was low effort. For DSP, he was before any of that. He used to film his TV screen and he would play video games with him not even in it. And he was really bad at video games, which made it very funny because people would tell him he was bad and he was in denial about it. It can be hilarious to be bad at video games. Some of my favorite streamers are horrible at games and they're raging all the time and it's funny. He was completely unself-aware about it and he fucking resented people who said he was bad at games. And that's part of what made it so funny. But since then, he's just kind of, he didn't really improve his production value ever. He fucked some of his business partners over. He's not like a horrible person. He's just like cringe. He's just cringe. And that's how it is with most of these lol cows. They're just funny to watch. It's funny to watch their lives fall apart. It's funny to watch them justify and dance around personal responsibility. And DSP is definitely one of those people. He fucking hates his haters. But in some cases, the haters are way worse than him. There was this group of haters. I can't remember their name, but they were headed by this guy who called himself Fred Fucks. And Fred Fucks was threatening to dox other people, other haters of DSP in this community because he felt that they were trying to profit off of it versus he was doing a virtuous thing by shitting on these people. So, there's a whole like, it's like, who is really worse? Is it him? Is it the trolls? In that case, probably the trolls in specific. But there's like a whole little weird, seedy internet community around these people, and I just find it so fascinating and funny. And I can tell you do too. Yeah,
well, and then when it comes to trolls, Wings of Redemption has the worst trolls, I think. I guess there's probably people who maybe have like more vicious trolls, but dude, he can't go into any gaming lobby anywhere without being called a pedo, without being called a cat killer. And I think Jordy's actually an okay guy. I've talked to Jordy. I don't think of all the internet people, I think Jordy's actually pretty funny and okay. What's the enigma around Jordy? Like, why is he so popular and then anti-popular, I guess you'd say?
Jordy was like one of the OG COD YouTubers. So back in the day when like Keemstar was really big and all those guys were really big, he was pretty popular, right? And basically what happened was he challenged someone to a match of COD Zombies. And he was like, I'll do better than you any day. And he brutally lost and he was brutally broken up about it ever since. And he's just kind of been coping and seething about it. There was a whole arc with this podcast called PKA where they were trying to get him to lose weight and come on this this camping trip with them. And they had all planned it out and they were ready to go. And then like last minute as they were all ready to leave and they were like going to the campsite, he was like, actually, fuck this, I'm not doing it. So it's kind of like a slow build with him. He is genuinely a funny guy. He's not a bad dude. I will say one of the funniest things the trolls have ever done to him is they called a local like car towing place and they said, hey, this is me. This is my house. This is my address. My truck's outside and he's fixing. Can you tow it? I'm not going to be there at the time, but can you just tow it? And so he woke up in the morning with no fucking truck. And there's this clip of him talking about it where he's like, just leave my fucking truck alone, man. Just come at me. Leave my fucking truck alone, which is true, which is very true. Yeah, I mean, he's a nice guy. He's not evil. Once again, he's just kind of a cringe guy to laugh at and watch rage. There's this great clip you've probably seen where he's playing a game and he loses and he throws the controller. He's like, I just can't take this shit no more, man. And I think people find it funny, but they also find it very, very relatable. He's like the least bad of any lolcow that I've seen. He's not a bad dude. He's just funny.
Yeah, no, he's actually funny, and he loves his truck, his Trailmaster. He went into debt just to get this truck. Now we got to talk. Speaking of, I would like to get your opinion too, because you are on the forefront of the internet. You're a young man. You get it. Like I said, you just get, your following's huge. What do you think about these IRL streamers like Only Use Me Blade? Like, I like Blade, I'm sure you're familiar with Blade. He started off as a COD guy, and then he really had a breakdown. What do you think about Blade and that guy that died at his content house?
I mean, Blade is just he's just an alcoholic, degenerate drug addict who like can't get his life on track. That's really the whole thing with Blade. He was hilarious. He's still funny when he's sober sometimes now. And when he's drunk, he's funny. But yeah, he's just completely ruined his life due to his addiction. He had so many connections. He was one of the biggest COD YouTubers in the world. Friends with Keemstar. Once again, Keemstar somehow knows all these people.
Keemstar knows them all. Level 1 DSP's podcast is named after Keemstar. He has a podcast with Jordy. He's kind of the king of the lolcows in a way.
Yeah, it seems to me that Keemstar has a habit of having friends have crazy mental breakdowns, and he tries to fix them. And then once he can't fix their situation, like he paid for Blade to go to rehab, for example, back in the day. He's been super helpful to him. And then the guy just destroyed his life, so all I can really do is laugh at it. Basically, at the end of the day, somehow Keemstar has a habit of attracting these people, and his life never seems to fall apart. But yeah, the whole thing with all these guys is really just they can't help themselves. Like with Blade, and the guy dying. He refused to even, take any responsibility for the fact that, he came over there. He had a heart condition. He got drunk on his watch. And when he was dead, they drew all over his face when they didn't even know he was dead. It's a pretty tragic situation in that case. Unfortunately, some of these guys, they completely lose sight of humanity. And the problem then is like, people stop watching them because they like them. They start watching them because they hate them. So they're incentivized to be crazier and crazier and crazier online. It's pretty tragic, but such is the nature of the internet, I guess.
Yeah. Now we got to go after or talk about a guy that's kind of gone after you a little bit, or no, Hassan has gone after you, but has Ethan Klein responded to you as well?
Ethan Klein has never said anything about me that I know. I don't think he's ever named me. But he's, Ethan has turned things around a little bit. He's been kind of funny recently. So I'm tepid on Ethan Klein. I'm hoping he'll
trending up
based again.
You're saying that Ethan Klein's trending up right now.
He's got some decent takes. Yeah, he's got some decent takes.
Well, but what's his take on, I guess he got killed by all of Hassan's friends, I think. Do you think that woke him up a little bit?
Yeah, I think that he's realizing that the people he attracted, like Hassan's fan base, are really bad for him. They're genuine crazy people. They believe a lot of crazy shit, and I think that his falling out with Hassan kind of demonstrated to him the community he attracted is bad. So, I think it's possible I don't even want him to be right wing. He never was. I just don't want him to be a crazy leftist anymore. He says a bunch of crazy shit, and it seems like he might be on that path. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with him, really.
Well, our next graphic is a guy we talked about already. Of course, I still think, and you spoke highly, Wings of Redemption. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy, Jordy, is just, I just want to go through the graphic because we got him in order, but I'm just saying, people make fun of him. He is so funny. Everybody should go check out Wings of Redemption. Do you think he'll ever be able to bounce back, though? Because, like, the Lolcow podcast is having a little bit of success, but he used to stream for thousands of people, and now his stream, he has everybody blocked. He gets, like, 300 people. Do you think he'll ever get back, or will he always kind of be at this level, you think?
Never say never. I think anyone could come back online. I think no matter how you fuck up or what you do, if you make good content, people will be there to watch, which is a nice thing. But it also means that if you're unable to make good content, if you're unable to push yourself to a position where you can actually make entertaining stuff, you're never going to be able to come back. And his main problem seems to be that he's obsessed with the people who hate him and the trolls, and mentally he can't seem to handle the being made fun of, basically. But I think the Lolcow podcast is a step in the right direction for those guys. I don't see any reason why they couldn't turn that into a successful business venture for the future. And, like we said, Wings is, the least bad person out of any of the Lolcows. He's not a bad guy. He's genuinely funny. when he wants to be. I think if he made great content like he used to back in the day, there's no reason why he couldn't get back to, you know, a bunch of viewers. A lot of the most popular people right now, like Zoomer, people like Kai Cenat, act completely retarded on stream and are super famous for it. So I don't see why he couldn't do it.
Okay, now this next guy you've been critical of, Andrew Tate. What's the deal with Andrew Tate and all the Bugattis?
Andrew Tate is really funny, but it seems like there's I don't know, the whole the whole webcam business seems to be kind of sketchy, and I know there's human trafficking allegations. I guess we're waiting to see how those go through, but yeah, he's an interesting guy. You know, I found him for the first time years ago on the Dick Show, which I don't know if you know Dick Masterson.
Of course,
he's a good podcaster, but
of course.
Yeah, he was a funny guy, and I watched him and I was like, this is a really interesting dude. And then just a few years later, he was the most famous person on the internet. But it seems to be that he has some major involvement with organized crime, which is probably a bad thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he goes to jail, you know.
And speaking of people that make pornography, this next guy we got to talk about, and this is our last guy on the list, Adam22. Now, Adam's invited me on his podcast, which I would like to go. I think it'd be beneficial to go on his podcast, mix it up with him. Him and I don't agree on a lot of stuff, so it should be good content. What do you think about Adam22 letting guys blast his wife on camera?
Well, it's probably a bad thing. I would say it's probably a bad thing. But for him, his entire mode of operation seems to be making the most money possible, no matter what the cost. He doesn't seem to really care that much about people making fun of him. So he basically just turned his wife getting blasted by, Tyrone D or whatever, into the most money he could possibly make. And that seems to be what he wants to do. So, I mean, not even that long ago, he faked being gay for content. He was like wearing Taylor Swift shirts and walking his dog with a clearly gay dude.
That's Jack Doherty's brother. The gay guy was Jack Doherty's brother, right? Am I correct when I say that?
I recently was told that, and I didn't know that at all, but apparently that is Jack Doherty's brother, which is really crazy. Jack is another kind of one of these really interesting young people who doesn't seem to really care what people think about him that much and just wants to make the most money possible, despite if it's, kind of an immoral or degenerate lifestyle, which, I've always found fascinating.
What do you think about, we're talking about Jack Doherty. What do you think about all these people just personally with the OnlyFans? Do you think that's ruining the world, or is it creating more content creators that have financial independence, in your opinion?
I don't know if it's ruining the world. I don't like it. I personally would not be able to date a girl who does OnlyFans. I can't imagine that being good for me personally. If these girls want to do it, they should have the freedom to, I think. But I think, encouraging that for young girls is probably a bad idea, generally speaking. I think that they'd probably get a lot more out of life out of I always say it's good to make money from what you have to say rather than how you look. And I think that's a general rule for life. And I wish that these girls would do that. But, with how the economy is, it's hard to totally blame them, considering that, when you look at what you make at Starbucks versus what you make showing your pussy on the internet, it's a big disparity, right?
It is, unless it's a popular Starbucks and then you're really a fat, ugly woman, and then maybe not, and maybe it's about even. I'm so fly, I'm aligned with the planes. My grind so refined, I got no time for no games. Ask yourself